Okay, well, then let's get started. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Just a quick recap that about the meeting etiquette. If at some point you want to add something on the topic, use the raise hand feature, please. And if you want to add a new topic, just add it in the agenda, and then we will go through when reaching there. So let's maybe start with a quick introduction round. If there's someone in the meeting who is joining for the first time and would want to introduce himself, like, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll start from my side. So I'm Digambar Patil. I'm kind of contributing to Ironic since last 1.5 years, and would like to contribute to Metal3 in case of DRAC side and adding some features related to validator and something. So there are two PRs we have created. One is related to hardware validation. That's the part we are working on. I'll add that in the agenda. That's all.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Noor, and I'm also working for Dell basically with on Metal3 to have RAID and BIOS configurations for PowerEdge servers. I also added an item in the agenda about this with the link to the issue that I created a few days ago. So thanks for having me here.
Welcome. Someone else? Okay, then let's get going with the next item. So I've put there like a question, rather, like, when do we want to resume, like after the holidays, the end of year? Would like January 8th be okay for everybody, or is it a bit too tight, and would then in that case the January 15th be better? So if you have any opinion on this, like, you can like put a +1 on the option that you prefer, and at the end of the meeting we can come back to this and like make a decision. Or if we don't have enough people participating in this, like, we can also like open this in Slack a bit more afterwards. Okay. If there's no comment, the next point is about the migration that was performed last week, I think, for CapVM. So the master branch of CapVM repository is now like v1 alpha 2. This means that there has been some CI changes, like in the triggers that were used in the BMO, Metal3 Dev and CapVM repositories. When the tests that were run before with test integration can now be triggered with test v1a1 integration, like the trigger that is put there. And the old triggers like this test integration and test centrist integration are now running the v1 alpha 2 tests. They are not fully ready yet, but yeah, that's another point later in the agenda. Any comment on this? No? Okay, let's keep going then. The second one was item was put there like to hopefully trigger a discussion. So the well, would like to propose to to create a new version for v1 alpha 2 for BMO. There are some API changes that are required, and quite some PRs that are like pushing new things towards the bare metal operator. So it might make sense to create a new version that would have like the referencing of the user data with the secret, and not only with the secret reference, sorry, not only with the string, and it would add the metadata and the network data in the user data secret. And then there would be this work on renaming the ready state to available, and some hardware and RAID and BIOS configuration work. So if anyone has something to say or add on this, like yes, no.
Seems like a reasonable plan. Seems like there's, just to state the obvious, being a V1 Alpha 1 API, we're not really obligated to do like much of anything in terms of communication, but it's a very nice thing to do. We've seen success with it, for example, in the provider and the cluster API. So if we have a slate of changes that are sort of related or even just grouped together in a timeline, yeah, seems like a helpful thing to bundle those together and define the next version.
Okay, how should we proceed then with this? Should we make a PR in the docs, like some in the docs repository to formalize a bit this this proposal, maybe?
Seems like a good starting point to me.
Can you
I'm
guys
Michael, by the
hear
way.
me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. The question is, are we planning to kind of a branch from the old bare metal operator, or I was thinking because most of the controllers now that we are using, CAPI, CAPBM, and CAPPDK, they are based on a queue builder kind of a solution. So, do we have any plans to start using queue builder or the same kind of a how can I say, implementation or structure than these other controllers? At least for me, it's sometimes really confusing to have different type of controllers in the, especially when you working from one to another. It sometimes really takes some time to get back to another design. But do we have any idea of using queue builder for building the new bare metal operator? Any ideas?
So you're suggesting to move from like having bare metal using the operator SDK to using Cube Builder?
Yes, that was my question. Does anybody see even a possibility for it? At least then most of the controllers would be, all the controllers would have the same design in a way, and at least for me it would be a wise thing to do, but I'm pretty open to keep it with the operator SDK if everybody else wants. But if we're starting to plan or design the whole new bare metal operator, then we maybe should also think about, are we using operator SDK or queue builder for the building? I don't know. Do you have any ideas? Maybe we can also discuss this later on in Slack, but it's just an idea.
I'll jump in with maybe a couple thoughts. By the way, I missed the introductions. I think I'm Michael, I'm Red Hat. I was involved in the early days of the Metal Cube project, getting it off the ground. And I'm still working around it, and even made a pull request this week. But not as full-time engaged as I was, let's say, well, a year ago when we started. In any case, I did not get the impression that we were talking about like rewriting the bare metal operator here. I assumed that when we were talking about a V1 Alpha 2, that's just like an evolution of what we have. It's just the next release. We're going to make some API changes and call it a release. So I don't know, is that correct? Or did anybody otherwise, aside from this proposal of for coding and engineering purposes, did somebody have in mind that the changes are going to be so substantial to the bare metal operator that you want to basically rewrite it?
I don't think it's needed, but that was just an because I'm still not sure what kind of a rewriting that would take. Of course, if we change totally from operator SDK to Cube Builder, then it's need to be fully rebuilt. But yeah, that was just a question. What kind of a rewriting or minor API changes is not that big deal, and I'm not definitely not pushing any. That was just an idea, or how much work we are willing to do with it, but don't have nothing against to use operator SDK. So just wasn't just an idea.
Cool. And for other reasons, I'm actually very interested, maybe to follow up later, or just to hear more feedback from you about what differences you see. The other part of my background is I actually worked on the operator SDK for quite a while, and have worked on controller runtime for a bit. So the long-term plan actually on their side is that operator SDK, in terms of Go-based operators, is on a trajectory to basically merge into Cube Builder. They both use controller runtime. The scaffolding that each of them lays down are quite similar. There's obviously some notable differences, and I'd actually be really interested to later find out, in particular, what things you see as being quite different that might actually be helpful to their community in particular as they try to figure out how to bring these two things together and reconcile their changes, to say. So in any case, that's the long-term trajectory. Personally, I would not have anticipated that it would make a substantial difference to you if we refactored or rewrote on Cube Builder, but would be interested to hear more, maybe in a however you would choose to communicate that.
Yeah, we can definitely continue discuss about using Cube Builder or not using Cube Builder, but I'm totally same on the same level that those API changes need to be done that we discussed earlier. And but yeah, we can rethink the whole thing or keep it as it is. But if we want to, what are the benefits? I don't have any benefits straight from here to say, but I can use some time and maybe think or propose something later on, maybe after the Christmas time or something like that. If we really want to, investigate changing it to using Cube Builder, I can use some time for to do, and I'm really willing to do it. And is there a really big difference? Hard to say, really, but at least then all the controllers would be quite same in the whole, for example, in the whole Metal event. But yeah, we can leave this discussion later on now. I don't have much else to say. That was just a question. If there are interest for it, we definitely can continue later on, or next community meeting we can propose something, or we can definitely slack with the idea.
Okay, maybe what about we proceed now with just the V1 Alpha 2 part, like with the proposal on the Metal3 docs PR, and then we take this discussion about like operator SDK versus Cube Builder in Slack, or like any appropriate channel.
I agree. We can continue with these other things, but yeah, let's keep it in mind. Let's not forget it, and just if there's an interest and time, we can definitely continue discuss. But we can continue now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. If there's any other comments about this. Okay, let's move to the next point. Digambar, or am I pronouncing it
Yeah.
wrong.
You're right. No worry. So this proposal, actually, ideally this proposal is related to hardware validation spec, which we are targeting. This is currently the hardware profiles are hard coded for us, and our proposal is to have a customization profile so that we can validate those profiles against bare metal nodes, and if there is match found, then immediately we can update into label selector saying that we have a matched profile for this hardware configuration. This is related to that we proposed this idea, and then D. Hellman and Zaneb and everyone agree with that, but they have suggested to have a separate, I can say, separate CRD for this instead of having it in bare metal host YAML file. So we are working on it, and maybe by tomorrow or tomorrow morning our time, we'll update that spec here, and all the comments I will address those comments and proceed on. I request everyone to go through this spec and put your thoughts also.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any reactions, comments? Okay, then next point, Stefan.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, so last week on the Red Hat side, we had a couple of people go through at least the bare metal operator repo and go through the open issues. There was a bunch of open issues against the repo that were either not valid anymore, or they were user concerns that hadn't gotten any feedback to them. So we were thinking that maybe we might want to do something in the org itself on a recurring basis, maybe every 2 weeks or some interval that people think is reasonable, to go through all the issues, triage them, close out things that aren't valid anymore or already fixed. Maybe add tags to mark things that like things are good first issues or things like that. And maybe we could do something like that on Zoom. I don't know how people feel about doing that. But at least from what I've seen in other projects, it doesn't tend to get done unless people sit down and actually set time aside to go ahead and go through and do that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, and we could even consider doing it alternating, the community meeting and the triage meeting, for example. Are there any comments related to this?
Did you have an opinion about whether it should be maybe part of this meeting, or if we should schedule something like maybe on the weeks where we don't have this meeting to do the triage?
Oh yeah, sorry, that's what I meant with the when I say alternate, is 1 week would be the community meeting, and then the other week would be the triage meeting. Or then we could also have meetings every week to go through quick points and then do the triage at the end. That both could work.
I think I like the idea of alternating meetings. Maybe we could try that in the new year following the first meeting. I can schedule something and we could go through the first set of issues to triage them.
So we could. So you're proposing to start after New Year, right?
Yeah, after we sort out when we'll do this meeting again, the following week we could do a triage.
Okay. Well, let's then go with this if there's no no reactions right now. But let's bring it up again at the next meeting, right? And then we will start it the following week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Then the next point was like there was this PR from Russell. I asked him if I should like bring it up again, but then didn't get really an answer from him, like because he's sick right now. So just like advertising that there is this the latest version of the approval process that is in the MetalDocs repository as a PR. So if you haven't seen it yet, like please go have a look. And there was in the thread, the discussion thread, some comments about like how we also need a document for like GitHub admins and other like resources that we have. Like we have a Twitter account and domain names, YouTube channel, all this. Like we probably should create documents the same way. Okay. So if there's no comment on this right now, like let's move on to the next point. Noor or Noor? I'm not exactly sure. Sorry for butchering your name.
That's okay. That's Noor.
Noor. Okay.
Yeah. So we have been given some work to do RAID and BIOS configuration with the Metal3 BMO for Dell-powered servers, right? And we already see that there's guys from Fujitsu who are doing this stuff for their IRMC driver. And we want to do it for iDRAC and Redfish. Now, the work and the discussions between the Fujitsu guys and you guys are there. There's a lot of them, especially this pull request 302 that I referenced at the bottom of this issue. But a lot of this is open-ended, and there's this unsurety about how should we proceed with certain things, because whenever is there the idea of what should the vendor configuration thing. So for example, there were discussions about we should do a common name for configurations that are common across all the vendors, like virtualization, but what should be that name was not really decided, right? And then there's also, okay, so what about the other things that are specific to vendors, like SRIOV Global, for example, which the Dell cards provide and stuff like that. So I'm basically using this issue as a starter of the conversation for that. And from our perspective, we need to lock down the specifications for all this configuration work in a couple weeks. So really looking forward to any input from you guys.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments on this? Okay. Well, I would maybe just add that this looks like really like something that could benefit from like one of those like proposal PRs on the Metal3 Metal3 docs repository. That would like help to lay the design and agree between the different BMC in a clean manner.
Okay.
So maybe like for those of you who are not like that familiar yet with the project, there is this. Okay, let's just. Here, so this repository gathers all the design documents for the bare metal operator and other repositories in the project. So if there is something that you want to discuss as a design, you can create a PR towards this repository, and like that will go along the currently opened ones, and where we can discuss this kind of things.
Okay. Okay, I'll do that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Should we then move on the ongoing work items, because there is no other like agenda items left aside of this one? Okay, I take that as a yes. So in Ericsson right now, like there's a couple of things ongoing, and we're working mostly on trying to get this like a cluster up and running just using CAPI. So we have now like the solution working for KBM with V1 Alpha 2. The only issues that we have now like is the load balancing. So we have high availability, but we're working with like trying to put the load balancer. And now we are investigating an in-cluster solution. So like basically, that was a solution that was like brought up in the cluster API meeting 2 weeks ago. So the idea would be that the load balancer would initially be deployed on the ephemeral or the admin cluster, let's say, so that then we can proceed with the deployment of the cluster, and then once deployed, then put up load balancer in the cluster. So yeah, that's what we're investigating now. Then, Kashif, are you on the call?
Yes. Can you mute this? Mute it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I'll do a quick review of what we are doing regarding the pivoting. So we have been able to pivot the CAPI objects and the BMH. We were having some hiccups pivoting the BMH with status, but that has now been resolved. The next focus is to somehow keep the DHCP releases, so the states that we are here, that we have already in the source cluster. We are looking into the different solutions or ways to achieve that currently. That is, in short, what we have done in regards to pivoting.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we can add a small precision that the thing is that there is already in cluster CTL from CAPI, there is a function to do the pivoting. The issues that we were having is that this logic does not migrate the status, right? So the bare metal hosts were migrated without the status, meaning that they were then inspected again by Ironic. So like that was like quite problematic, right, Kashif?
Precisely, you're right. So we were having an issue with that one, and then we had to go. Also had a workaround with this CAPI merge patch, but yeah, finally it is working, and hopefully once it's all done, we would make a PR so that others can also see how we have done it.
Okay, thank you. There doesn't seem to be any comments. The next work item is also ours. Like we're working on the networking configuration. So we basically have a use case where there cannot be any DHCP on the environment. So we need to do the IP assignment ourselves. So we are looking now like where this IPAM would be best done, if it should be like already done when we are creating the CRs, or if we would somehow like extend the Bootstrap provider to include something that would handle the networking, so that we could take care of some kind of logic that would take care of the IP assignment. So yeah, well, like just starting the work in there, like looking what the different solutions are, and yeah, how we can fix this problem.
So for this, would you think that's part of like the CRD for the bare metal host? You'd specify an IP address in there?
It actually would not be in the bare metal host CRs, like it would be in the kubeadm config, because that's something that comes in the cloud init. So the Bootstrap provider would just assign the address that would be using, and then put this in the cloud init, so that when the node boots, it then like configures the networking properly using something maybe like OSNet config or like any kind of networking configuration. This is quite free, right? But it would not be in the bare metal host. So it means that we might have because at the moment in the status of bare metal host, we have the IP addresses that come from IPA, right? So this if we do the IP address assignment ourselves, then this means that those IP addresses in the bare metal host status are then invalid. They would be outdated. And they would even, like, in that case, they might not even be there, because if there's no DHCP, IPA will not pick any. So, yeah. Okay, then maybe next is Ferus.
Yep. Hi, my name is Ferus. I'm also from Ericsson. I just also wanted to mention that I have opened one PR on this Metal3 Devant repo for end-to-end integration test with Vivan Alpha 2. I have received some comments and trying to fix those issues, and hopefully by the end of this week it will be ready, and then we can already start doing the integration test with Vivan Alpha 2 as well.
Okay, great, thank you. Next is Stefan.
So this is somewhat related, or you'll at least need this work for what you're doing with IP management. But I'm working on being able to disable DHCP in the cluster. So currently, the ironic image starts a DNS mask that provides DHCP on the provisioning network. So there's an open PR against the ironic image. Let me link that in the doc. That basically, if you don't specify a DHCP range, then DHCP won't be started. You may want to look at that and see if there's anything that might affect the work that you're doing. But then once this merges, we can update the dev end so we can expose this so you can use either external DHCP. There's nothing in here that affects doing static IP address management yet. It's only disabling DHCP in the cluster. So you'd still be expected to have something available externally.
Okay, sounds good. Well, if there's no further comment, like, has anybody anything else to add, like a new item for the agenda? Nope.
Good morning. This is Andy Schiefelbein. I apologize. I was a little late to the call, but I think you might have seen something come across the mail list about a proxy support. I'm going to be probably working on that a little bit. I'm working for AT&T, by the way.
Okay, great. Thank you. All contributions are welcome. So, like, and if you need any like help or pointers, please just like send a message on Slack or by email. We'll be happy to help.
Slack is a little hard for me right now, unfortunately, until I get the firewall rules. But so it might be on the mail list at the moment.
That works too.
All right, thank you.
So you're working on the proxies on Ubuntu, for Ubuntu or for CentOS?
I'll probably, when I get a working configuration, I intend to go through both of them to make sure they both work. So I'll probably supply a patch set for both if I get to that point.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anything else? Well, then I guess we can just conclude this meeting here and wish each other's like a nice like end of year, and see you next year.
Thank you.
Thanks. See ya.